All right, good afternoon, YouTube denizens. It's the Money Lab podcast. Again, we always start the YouTube live first. And just under the wire, our guest today just arrived. And so I apologize if we start just a minute late, but that's okay because she's right here. So everybody say hello, hey. We're going to give it a few minutes, but actually it is top of the hour right now. So stay tuned. We're going to fire up the podcast side. And for those of you who are watching in on YouTube, make sure that you realize that you can actually chat. Let me make sure the chat thing is open. Okay, great. So I can see all the chat and all the questions that can come in. Say hi, Jamie.
Hi, guys.
Okay, cool. So quiet on the set. We're gonna fire up the actual Spreaker app. Okay, here we go. All right, welcome to the Money Lab Live podcast, episode number 47, From Adversity to Prosperity. Ooh. They can't hear it. All right, welcome back to another live broadcast of the Money Lab podcast from the Six Figure Academy. I am your host, Wei Hong. And this is the podcast where we give you tips, strategies, and interviews with other entrepreneurs on how to create the ultimate six-figure entrepreneur lifestyle, free of bad money stories, money anxiety, and stress so that you can monetize your dreams and execute your genius. Now, if you haven't already downloaded our free book, From Money Anxiety to Six-Figure Mastery, make sure you go to why do I keep saying HTTP? And I say this every single week. Okay, anyway, we'll go to go.thesixfigureacademy.com. That's when you go to the URL box and just type it in and you get it there. It's the perfect complement to all the things we discuss on this show. And quite frankly, it could change your life. Now, if you're joining us live today and you are not on YouTube Live, because we already fired that up already, make sure you get on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app to your mobile device and search for the hashtag #TheMoneyLab so that you can join us in the chat room and ask questions, interact with us and our guest, our beautiful guest today, or even request a specific topic to discuss that we can talk about that will help support you in your quest for the ideal six-figure lifestyle. Now, while you're there, subscribe so that you don't miss an episode and you can catch us every single week. For all other ways to find us, go to thesixfigureacademy.com/radio for all the details. Now, if there's something that you love about what you hear on this episode today, which you probably will because she's amazing, that you know that could help someone you care about. Remember, sharing is caring. So share this show to that person. So I'm not going to do much of an intro because I want to go ahead and bring this lady on because she basically went through hell and high water just to get here. Literally called me minutes before saying I was on my way here, totally on time, and an accident totally happened. But let me give you a little bit of background about this. For those of you who are YouTube Live, this beautiful lady sitting in front of me, her name is JamieStar Crawford, or Jamie Lee, JamieStar, one or the other. And I have known this woman for years. I mean, and through the volleyball community. Okay. I actually never really was formally ever introduced to her. It was just through conversation. Eventually, one day we just made a comment. We just started talking and then we became friends. It was like one of those natural ways that people kind of connect and everything. And over the years, I never knew what she was into. And she was a collegiate athlete, played volleyball. And that's all I really knew about her until I finally got into one single conversation and realized she was an entrepreneur. And she's been an entrepreneur for so many years and with a huge purpose of teaching and wanting to help people on the planet. So without further ado, we'll probably hear a lot more about her journey, where she's come from. Welcome to the show, JamieStar Crawford.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, Wei.
Yeah. So before we jump on in, I want you to share a little bit about what you went through just to get here today, because I was like looking at the clock and I was like, oh my God, we have 2 minutes and she's still not in the studio yet. So what happened? So you're on the 405.
I'm on the 405.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course it's the 405.
Of course it's the 405. It's interesting today because I've had a morning of intention.
Uh-huh.
A morning of it doesn't matter how it happens, it's going to happen.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened today.
Right.
From 8 o'clock this morning until this moment, it's been a series of, it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'll make it happen.
Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to have to talk more about that today, because a lot of your life's journey has been kind of about that, right?
Very much.
So,
especially the part where I don't come from that place. And I don't come from trusting.
Right.
Because a lot of the conversations about money are going to be about trusting.
Yeah. So speaking of which, now, let's give a little bit of context first. What is it that you do right now?
So right now, I am an emotional wellness coach. I also help with internal mindsets that are guided into emotions and through emotional congruency.
Wow.
So what that looks like is I handle your past and I help you release the past.
Okay.
I also look at how it is that you're living your life in your perspective of your life and how that is creating your emotions.
Okay.
And when you're stuck.
Yeah. So I heard the word emotions a lot. Okay. Now you and I share a lot of the same mentors, you know, when it comes to that work. But I want, you know, I'm not going to talk about me. I'll just talk about your journey and around that. Why so much emphasis on the emotion piece when it comes to the work that you do? Now, yeah, we're going to talk about that right now, and then we'll go to how you got to where you are today.
So why I focus on emotions is because my entire life, I knew myself as an empath, but I didn't understand what that meant and what to do with that.
I'm glad you said that, because for those of us who don't know what an empath is, tell us, what's an empath?
So to be perfectly honest, I think all of us have the ability to be empaths.
Okay. And what does that mean exactly? What does it mean to be an empath?
An empath is someone who experiences other feelings. Experiences other people's feelings as though they were your own. Oh,
okay. Like if I watch a movie and I start to cry.
Yes.
But I'm not in the movie.
If you find yourself a crier a lot, you may be an empath.
You know, I didn't used to be. You know, and as I got older and I started experiencing life, I noticed something really interesting. I grew up not being allowed, you know, because big boys don't cry. You know, and I grew up in a very strict household, very academic, very Chinese, you know, old school. So men don't cry. They get angry, but they don't cry.
But they so do, don't they?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think as life became more and more tumultuous and it started throwing things at me, one day I was watching, of all movies. Okay, this is where I noticed. I was watching Die Hard. And I tell people, it's like, you cried on Die Hard? Yes, I cried on Die Hard. I don't know if anybody else. I mean, for those of you who are listening and you want to jump in the chat and ask a question or make fun of me even, that's okay. If you're on YouTube, there's a chat screen. There's a group chat that you can chat. There's also on Spreaker, you can put a chat here. Let me know if you can relate, even if after the show. The part at the end when Bruce Willis comes out and sees the policeman that he was cornered and never met him ever before in his life, and came out and gave him a big hug, like he was like a longtime family friend. At that moment, I was like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "I've watched this before, but I never cried here. Why am I crying now?" So is that what you mean? Like, I mean, or is that just because of life circumstances that's opened that up, or is it? What is that? I mean, does that mean that I've always been an empath, or?
So it's interesting that you say that, because you're right. The older we get, the more in tune with our emotions we become. Because we start breaking the stories of our childhood. The story that was given to you, I can't cry, men don't cry. Right. That story isn't really authentic with who we are as humans.
Right. Because when we were born, before we knew language, we were crying all the time.
All the time. It's our only language that we knew how to express emotions.
Like, I'm hungry, cry. That hurt, cry.
I want that, cry.
I'm not getting what I want, cry.
Yes.
Right? We didn't even know how to be angry.
No,
when
we just cried.
We just cried.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Such a fascinating thing. Yeah. So now, was this something that you've always done? Or let's talk about your journey. How did you get to where you are? Because like I said, when I first met you, all I knew was this amazing A-pool volleyball player that played in college. And it was just so fun to watch you play and just
do all my interests.
Bang the ball, you know? I do a lot of interests with a lot of people. So, but you know, I think it wasn't until recently that I realized that, oh wait, there's more to Jamie than just volleyball.
Right? One of her labels.
One of her labels. But so tell me about your journey to life, and then we'll from there we'll lead into your whole money story piece. But like, you know, how did you end up where you are today? What was your career like in terms of when did you transition to becoming an entrepreneur? Let's talk about that.
So it's interesting that we just that we were just talking about emotions, because that was something that was very challenging for me most of my life. The idea or the story that I had of depression and anxiety was one and the same.
Okay.
That from my childhood, there was, traumatic occurrences. We all have certain traumatic occurrences that occur. And the way I went with it was the route of depression and anxiety.
So you actually went through depression and anxiety.
Many years of it.
Medicated or not? Just
unmedicated, because I'm stubborn like that.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good thing, right?
I learned a lot.
I'm stubbornly depressed, but unmedicated.
Yeah. It was, the occurrences of childhood, it sparked an interest in what that was. I always had a devout commitment to learning. Right. A devout interest in questions of the universe and why we're here.
Right. And how did you know to identify if you were not medicated? So you didn't get diagnosed or anything?
I did.
Oh, you did get diagnosed.
Yeah.
And they did like prescribe stuff, and you said no.
I was strictly against it.
How old were you when that happened?
I had my first anxiety attack at 11.
And even at that age, you said no meds.
So they didn't offer, thankfully.
Okay.
It was many years of counseling.
Okay.
And many years of really understanding what it was that made me tick and why it happened. It wasn't until later I understood that I made up a story about what happened, because we all make up stories.
Right.
And then we seek more examples of how to further make that my reality.
And so do you think having and obviously those counselors and they were helpful, because you were able to navigate through without using medication, where a lot of kids today immediately jump to the medication piece.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that's a function of parents being lazy. Sorry, parents. I'm a parent too. So are you.
Parents are devotional. Parents are devotional, and in my experience, especially because what I ended up doing for the last 10 years was working with parents and kids, was that parents will do whatever it takes to help their kids.
Money's no object.
Money's no object.
Time's no object. Energy no object. For most parents, there are parents who aren't like that.
There are. And what I attribute that to is lack of knowledge and lack of resource. So in terms of, I am limited by what I know. Right. And I will only choose by what I know.
So it's a lack of awareness.
Yeah.
So, I think it's also a function of, there's a lot going on right now in terms of parents realizing that they need to continue to work on themselves, especially as parents, right?
Oh yeah. It's
unlike our parents that grew up as, we are done. We're telling you what to do now.
Yes. Yes. And definitely becoming a parent is the best way to see how most parents are always challenged by I'm going to tell my kid my story.
Right.
And they're going to do what I want them to do. And I'm going to control the outcome. And as we learn very difficultly, when the kids get to a certain age, we have absolutely no control of our kids.
Amen to that.
Yes. But we can do the best we can to come from responsibility. That I am responsible for their experience. And I could do my best to empower them and to inspire them to take on what it is that I would like them to value in life. But really, it's always up to them.
So many gemstones in just that one little blurb right there. So I have to go back and re-listen to this again. So now I have a sneaking suspicion that the whole, your experiences around depression, anxiety contribute a lot to your journey in terms of shaping you, who you are. It's just a lot like, how like there's a lot of comedians out there say, I'm funny because I was depressed and had to deal with that and I overcame that, as opposed to the old school. It's like, I'm funny because I am depressed. And it's like, no, whatever. So do you think that your commitment to kind of like get through all those things in your childhood growing up contributed to your path into eventually becoming an entrepreneur? Because were you always an entrepreneur, or was it just something that like some of our previous guests, like Bruce, like one day it's like, oh, I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Right. What was your journey like into, because you're an entrepreneur now, right? Entrepreneur now. So what was your journey like? Was it like I grew up and I said, hey, I'm an entrepreneur? Or was it like I'm saying like a lot. I sound like a millennial. Or was it more like you worked and experienced what it was to not be an entrepreneur and then say, I don't like this. So let's talk about your unique journey to becoming an entrepreneur. deciding to become one?
No, it's funny that you actually say that, because a lot of the story, the money stories that we get as a kid, it's also synonymous, but about what we understand work is.
Right.
And so I grew up with 50s parents and 50s ideals of get a job, go to school, make sure that your school ties in with your job, get security, get the benefits. And I understood that how hard I worked was equated with money. And I understood that I must be part of, that kind of thing.
Right.
What I didn't realize was I have such an array of interest and so many different passions that I didn't understand how that it equated to one job.
Huh. Right.
And so if I was to write a list of the amount of jobs that I have had between 18
let's start with
and 25.
25 jobs.
No, 18 and 25, it's been over 30.
Oh, wow.
I've done everything from valet to construction to receptionist.
Wow. Construction and valet. Receptionist, okay, kind of like stereotypical, but yeah. But construction and valet.
To marketing. To like.
So you were just a serial employee, so to speak, for a while.
Yeah. It was, that looks fun. Or I could do that.
Right.
So I'm going to spend all my time, playing over here and what I really like, and then I'll just make enough money to survive.
Oh, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever work in the restaurant business?
I did.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course.
What else? I mean, did you ever run the summer camp?
Yes.
Yeah. That's so random.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say was the most unique job you ever taken? Because oftentimes I find people who had, because I've walked this path as well. It's like, ooh, that looks fun. That looks fun. That looks fun. Sooner or later, you're going to encounter a very odd job where it's just like, oh, what's this all about? And you do it anyway.
A lot of my personal assisting jobs were like that.
Oh,
in terms of
I bet.
Who I was personal assisting for.
Sure.
So I'm not obviously going to disclose that. But
of course.
There were some people in the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah. That had entertainment industry.
Yes. That had a very interesting lifestyle. And so I was immersed in that environment that at the time.
We might know the same people. Because
today it's one and the same, and I have a lot of friends in the industry. Back then, when I was like 23, it was very new to me.
Yeah, I knew someone who worked who did accounting for that industry. You might know the same person too, but we could talk about that later. No names. It's a different kind of industry. There's one thing I forgot to mention. For those of you who have been watching and realize like what's all that growth that's happening on Way's head, because it's for more than a decade, almost 2 decades.
It's so true.
I know, right? I decided to not shave for a week. This is so random. It's like completely out of the blue. I decided to not shave for a week just to see what would happen, just to see if now that I'm older, can I grow hair faster? It's not. It has not changed. I still can't grow hair. People look at me and say, did you not shave for a day? This is a week. Okay, maybe not. So it's coming off. Okay, it's coming off at the end of this week. I'm gonna give it 2 weeks. But anyway, I just thought I'd experiment and finish. So speaking of experimenting, that's exactly what we're talking about here, which is, trying all these. At what point then did you decide, this serial employment thing is kind of getting tired? I'm tired of trying to, doing this employee stuff. There's got to be a reason why I'm jumping from one job to another. When did you decide it's like, oh, hey, I'm an entrepreneur?
So many entrepreneurs I've spoken to actually share the same racket of the don't tell me what to do.
You have a problem with authority? Is that what it was?
Problem with authority, yes.
That comes with the whole stubborn thing, right?
It's very stubborn. It's, whatever in my head comes with authority, and it's the whole internal rebellious thing. And
so when authority told you that you had depression or anxiety, was there a part of you that said, no, I don't?
There was a part of me that took it in because it landed so hard with, of course, this is what it is, but don't tell me what to do and how to fix it.
How to fix it. If I'm going to have it, I own it, and I'm going to deal with it on my own terms, right?
But, and part of the process.
That's a book. You should write a book. It's called Depression on My Own Terms.
Oh, geez. It's so funny. The irony of that is that we can't do it on our own. We can never do it on our own. I learned that, though. Yeah. I learned that. So
do what on our own?
Depression.
Oh, right.
Nobody could do depression on their own.
Yeah. It's kind of hard, huh?
Yeah. And that's the problem, is that most of us do.
Yeah. Or try to.
Yeah. Or attempt to. But that's the problem, is that we're trying to attempt.
Isn't the irony is that you succeed becoming depressed because you're trying to do it alone?
Yes.
And then when you acknowledge that, oh, I can't do it alone, all of a sudden the depression goes away?
Yes.
It's so simple.
It's like magic to know that people exist for us.
Wow.
And we exist for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, as an entrepreneur, if you talk to the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, not one of them will say, I did this all on my own. No. And those that do are ironically running the country. But anyway, I mean, it's so funny. It's but most happy, successful, prosperous entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of adversity. Is there any other than the depression and anxiety piece? Okay. And I know we're kind of jumping all over because there's just so much information to talk about because it's so cool. Was there any other adversity? Because the title of today's show, based on your experiences and your journey, because I like to title the shows based on the guest stuff. It's from adversity to prosperity, you know. And I noticed when you submitted your information, talked about your story, and this probably has to do with your money story, which is what the show is a lot of the show's about, is because everybody has a money story. What were, aside from the depression and the anxiety that you had to deal with growing up, what were some of the other types of adversities that contributed to your journey to become more prosperous in life?
So one of the things is tying into the money story of my childhood is that I understood what saving was. And I understood that work equated to money. Okay. The problem was, in my adulthood, I wanted to spend time doing things that I really wanted to do. Right. So wasn't working hard enough. So then I wasn't actually producing what I wanted to produce. I didn't yet see money as a mindset. Right. I understood money was the amount of work I put in. Money was the amount of hours I put in.
Oh, it's like a linear equation.
It was a linear equation, not a mindset equation.
Yeah.
And so for the first 10 years of my tutoring business, that was what shifted me from that linear to a broader, chunked up version of money as a mindset, which is a product of abundance. Right. And so I understood that if I was to commit myself to an intention of what I wanted a business to look like, and trusting that I will figure it out, for some reason, I understood that when I set that intention, I started to attract the clients. Oh. And then it was feedback from me that, wait a second, why am I not charging what I want to be charging? Right. I don't need to work more hours. Right. I need to come from a place of, I am worth this, and I trust that I'm going to have it. And then suddenly the opportunities happen. Is what was my experience with tutoring.
Okay. So tutoring, was tutoring your first gig? I mean, first
tutoring was, yes, that is my first.
And how long did, I mean, you still do it, right?
I do.
Yeah. And how long have you been, had you had that business?
For over a decade.
Over a decade.
That was the one thing. And this is actually tying into what you said. How did I know? Yeah. Is because it was around 25 when I actually had that realization of, why am I still working for somebody when I can do this for myself? Right. Why am I still taking on these jobs when I can just be my own boss? Right. And there was something that clicked with, of course, why am I resisting who I'm authentically? Right. And who I am authentically is, this is my creation, my project, my business.
So what pattern do you think you interrupted in that moment?
I interrupted the story of security.
Security. And who taught you that security story?
Everybody in my childhood.
Everybody. But there were main teachers. So it's always a main teacher. Who were you closest to? Was it mom or was it dad?
So my mom has a wonderful work ethic. One of the things I admire most about her is her work ethic. Right. And she's also a school teacher.
Oh, cool.
So the idea of benefits were important to her. The idea of something long lasting is very important to her. Right. And she also gave up a lot of her dreams so that she can have security. And so the product of that I saw was she was able to raise a family and provide for us. Right. And struggled internally and emotionally to do so. And I didn't like that.
Right.
I didn't want it. I didn't like seeing her hurt for it.
When did you find out that she had dreams? Like other than
adulthood.
When we
started having the conversations about it.
And what did your mom want to do? What were her dreams?
My mom is a traveler.
Oh, really?
She's a traveler. She's a dancer. She's a creative thinker. She's passionate and she's super creative. And not that she didn't use that creativity in her teaching. She did.
Of course.
But it was I'm going to work my ass off until my creativity is stifled, which I didn't like. And I didn't want that. I'm a creative person myself.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Jerry Cervantes, by the way, mentioned that your volume is pretty low. It's not because our system isn't letting it. She's just that sultry, sexy kind of like low. I'm just as loud, whatever. I'm just a loud dude, so that's why it just seems like there's such a big difference.
If I speak more like this, I'm sure it's more effective.
Well, plus you came off from a weekend of just a lot of loud speaking.
A lot of yelling.
So you're moderating your voice so it doesn't get all even sexier. Right? But thanks for pointing that out, Jerry.
Jerry.
I did some adjustments on the sound, so appreciate that. Okay, so in case you're wondering if we're live or not, we are. So is she doing anything now, though? Now that you've had the conversation with her? And the reason why I'm talking about this is a lot of times the work that we do when it comes to working with our students and clients around the money story is about going back to parents if they're still alive, or the original teachers of your money story, to see, if they make a shift, it actually helps you make your shift as well. So has she after the conversation made any kind of decision to, does she have, do you have any siblings?
I do have a brother, and he's also younger, and he's also brilliantly and entrepreneurial as well. Wow. Highly creative, highly driven.
Must drive your mom bonkers. She's like probably worried all the time. It's like, oh my God, what's wrong?
He's brilliant. And so part of what him and I had challenged her by was always going, I want this, I want that. And what about this? And what about that? And she's going, pick one. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to pick one. And it drove her crazy because I never stuck with one thing that would provide me security for 40 years. And even now that she's retired, she struggles. And I watch her and a lot of people in her generation, a lot of people that are in the retirement phase going, I'm not done working. I'm not done with my passions, but this is all I knew how to do.
Right.
I don't know how to do it for myself. I don't know how to build from the ground up.
Yeah, my mom's going through that right now. Yeah.
So part of it really was recreating and to a degree I still am, recreating my story with security. Because a lot of my experience in entrepreneurship is trusting that what I need will be there when I need it.
Yeah.
Because the security story for me is what kept me from risking.
What you're talking about there is prosperous thinking.
Yes.
Right? Thinking that there's an abundance. Right? It's interesting because, we forget that everything physical in this world is, or even not physical. Look at Bitcoin and stuff like that. It's all energy representation. Yeah. It's a representation of energy. Air is a representation of energy. Do we wake up every single day going, I better breathe as much air as possible? It's going to run out. Okay. Because we understand there's an abundance of it. Now, obviously, if you're deep sea diving and stuff like that, you can appreciate air a little bit more. But for people like normal people like us who reside on land for most of our lives and we get up and we breathe, there is an abundance but we don't think about that. And because we don't think about it, think about this. It's almost as if we'll never be without air. Right. So if we can somehow shift that and apply towards money, we will never be without money.
Yes.
We will never be without the things that we need, no matter where we are in life.
Yes.
To live the life that we want, right? And so it's so interesting seeing it, and I can only appreciate how challenging, because it's different for everybody, how challenging it must have been to be able to break away from that, right? Because did you grow up in a single parent household, or were both of your parents around?
Both.
Okay. And then?
Mostly it was my mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
And dad was working, or?
It was an interesting childhood.
Okay.
I'll leave it there.
Okay. So we'll leave it at that. So whatever adversity you went through growing up and then getting to where we are today, right? It's always interesting to see how people break away from and preserve the gemstones and the teachings and the learnings that are applicable.
Yes.
And the ones that aren't, and being able to decipher that, because a lot of times we just accept things for what they are.
Yeah.
Right. So when that shift happened, and it happened probably for your brother. Now, did the entrepreneurship for your brother happen after you decided to be an entrepreneur, or was he always kind of on that path too?
He's always been, even when he's not in entrepreneurship.
Right.
His mindset is always still there. And even if it's a 3-year journey within a company, he's always thinking beyond that company, how I'm taking these skills.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship is actually a mindset. It's more so a mindset than an actual thing. You know, just because you own a business doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. I know plenty of people who own small businesses and they just basically created a job for themselves, but they don't have any vision beyond that. And that's a big difference, right? So your money story was really around creating security, saving but not spending, right? So as we know in nature, there's a natural flow of inflow and outflow. So it's inflow. Where's the outflow? Trickle it out. Right?
And make sure there's enough left.
Right.
Make sure you have these covered.
As opposed to saying, I'll always find a way.
I will always find a way.
Right.
That's that trust.
Yeah.
That's really that trust. And a lot of that was a lot of the work that I did on myself was trusting myself.
Right.
Was trusting that I know how to make it happen if I need to make it happen.
Right. So for those who are also entrepreneurs out there and are dealing with adversity right now, right? That's getting in the way, or maybe they haven't become entrepreneurs yet, but they're in their hearts of hearts, it's like a fire that's burning. I want to be an entrepreneur, but there's so much adversity in my life that I don't see it being possible. Now, I'm sure there's more to your story than what you've been shared so far.
And we all have it.
Yeah, and we all have it. So what would you say what separated you with being able to traverse through that valley of adversity and to come out of that and be able to continue to step forward, right? Because I would say right now, 10 years you pretty much established the fact that you know how to run a business, right? And now stepping to another business as well, being a life mastery coach, or what you call it yourself?
An emotional wellness.
Emotional wellness coach, right? Which is the new iteration of your next journey in entrepreneurship. Yes. Okay. How would you say that you uniquely, kind of like got through that, got past all that adversity where most people would probably have it stop them?
I think for me, it comes back to the highest value of doing what you love. I don't subscribe to anyone, anytime, for any reason, doing what they don't love.
Right.
So I have a very, very strong congruency with what I'm doing must be something that I love. So even in the transition from tutoring, I still love it.
Right.
I don't run from it. I find it highly satisfying. It brings me a lot of meaning and purpose in my life. It's a very important position. And at the same time, I can still do other things that are very much in alignment with my passion and what I love. And so I think for me, having that realization that I don't ever want to do anything that I don't love is what still guides me.
Yeah. I read a few articles out there in like the Wall Street Journal for it. And there's been this big debate going on about how the new generation is all about doing what they love and not willing to do anything else and there's some really old school successful people that, that kind of scoff at that. Things like, all they care about is doing what they love and stuff like that. And so there's a debate going on like, well, do you really just focus on doing what you love, or finding that harmonious relationship between paying your dues, so to speak, and not losing sight of what it is that you're here to do, or doing what it is that you love? I mean, how did you figure that out? From, okay, I'm doing all these jobs. I don't love this. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing that I'm going to eventually do what I love. What was it that you did that was different from people who just get stuck and like, God, I hate what I do. I hate what I do. I hate what I do. And then they lose sight of what they actually love to do.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is that when I listen to my inner voice, it screams.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people dull that. A lot of people turn the volume down on that. That's like, I want this, but so-and-so said I can't. Or I want this, but that's going to take A through 15,000 steps to get it.
And put baby in the corner.
I'm going to put baby in the corner. Exactly. Exactly. And I think in my experience, one of the things that I really learned was what I want will come through. It just depends on when I let it. So if I'm meant to do something, I can either listen now or later. But if I listen now, I can get a head start on it. If I listen later, I may have to pull myself out of a hole.
Yeah. As we see with our parents.
As I see with a lot of people that are slowly leaving a job that they are not satisfied with for 10 years, but they're still there and they're like, I'm ready to leave. But even the transition out of that is slow.
Yeah.
As the getting to the realization is slow. And it's not even because it's that person per se.
Right.
It's because they don't give themselves permission to go there.
Yeah, that permission piece. Let's talk about that because I love that concept of giving yourself permission, right? Because I talk about this a lot where, we live in we live in a very much permission-based society. And that's that, as kids, we raise our hands to go relieve ourselves.
Yes.
We're not allowed to relieve ourselves.
May I.
Yeah, mother may I. Can I go to my own biological function? I need to have someone to give me. Now, and I get it. For kids, sometimes we need a little discipline. Otherwise, chaos will ensue. But nobody untrained us out of that.
Yes.
Nobody ever untaught that. Okay, now you're an adult. Now you don't have to ask for permission. And nobody actually explicitly said that. So tell me, does that make sense? I mean, do you with your clients and your students and everything like that? I mean, what is it that you tell them to do? Do you help them with the releasing that permission piece?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about it, because I bet you a lot of people out there listening to the show, and that means you are may also be struggling. I mean, the passive stuff, right? Yeah. Like if I wanted to go do something, right? And as adults, we don't literally say, "Hey, mother, can I go do this?" Right? No. We go to our friends and our peers and our colleagues and say, hey, what do you think of, which is passive permission requests, right?
It is, because what we're really looking for is somebody to validate what we actually want.
Validate our existence.
That's it. I just, when I go and ask somebody, I'm looking for the answer that I want to validate what I want.
Yeah. The answer that you already know.
The answer that I already know.
For me, I go ask so I can have people validate my existence.
For sure. We all do it. We all do it.
Hey, Jamie, am I real?
I think so.
Really?
You might be.
I need to get a second opinion. I need to get a second opinion. You know, let me call 5 more people and ask them, do I exist? Yeah. I mean, in essence, that's what we're doing when we want to do. We're compelled to do something. Yeah. And then we're asking, what do you think? And it's such a tenuous thing, right? Because if they say, I don't think it's a good idea, it's like, oh, why? And in your heart, you're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
So what is it that you do for your students or your clients and everything that struggle with the whole permission piece?
So the permission piece really is a worthiness conversation.
God, do you hear that construction thing outside?
I do. What is that?
Oh my God. Anyway, you guys probably don't hear it. I'm so sorry, but let's go back to it. I'm sorry. It was distracting. This humming, beeping thing that's going on outside our office. It's not a very well sound treated room. I'll tell you that. It's not my house where I have my sound booth. But anyway, enough squirrels. Okay, go ahead.
That's also it too, though. It's funny you mentioned distraction, because it's actually a part of that. Is that every time we allow ourselves to distract away from what our vision is, what we're committed to doing, and we're going to let another person take us away from the things that we really want.
And weaken our resolve. Okay. So going back to strengthening our resolve, right? What is it that you do? One of the things that you do, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you do, but what are one of the things that you do that someone can like listen to you and listen to what we're talking about here and say, I have a permission-based kind of behavior that is actually getting in the way from me doing what I want to do?
Yeah. So a lot of it really is asking yourself, and from a real place, what it is that I want. And a lot of the conversations that stop us from doing that are, if I had money, if I had time, if I had energy, if I had help, if I had a babysitter.
Conditional.
If I had, they're all conditions. So coming from a place of what I want to ask myself what I really want, because really the permission piece is an extension of how resolved I am about it. Because the people that actually make things happen, the business people that have their business succeed, had a million people telling them that was a poor idea. This you can't do this because this, you can't just do that. So it's like, if I actually did listen to those people, it's because my resolve isn't great enough. My commitment isn't strong enough.
Right.
And so what's behind the commitment is what I authentically want. But getting to the place of what I authentically want means I have to ask myself, what do I want if there is no such thing as money, or time, or energy, or circumstances?
The magic wand of truth.
If I have a magic wand, what would I be doing now?
Right.
And truly being able to put the conversations of mom and dad aside that said you can't, put the teacher aside that said you won't.
So what do you say to people that hear this and they say, well, that's easier said than done?
Because
that all sounds good. Because it is. That's it.
Because it's one piece.
Right.
Because it's not simply just asking yourself what you want. It's then committing to it. And then it's not just committing to it. It's then putting an action on it. Because the manifestation piece of abundance, the manifestation piece of anything is putting an action on it. So it's not simply saying, I want this. Universe come. Right. Because the universe is already helping. Right. It's literally already aligning up the things. It's putting an action step to be like, okay, I'm in.
Got it. So for someone who hasn't been exercising this muscle, I mean, what I'm hearing is potentially it could be something as simple as, I feel like watching this new movie that's out. Yeah. I shouldn't ask anybody what I think about it. Just go do it. Just go watch it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, it's the simplest slogan.
Yeah, what slogan is that? Who's that? Nike got it. Nike got it. Right?
It's been in our face this whole time and on our feet. Just asking us to go do it.
My face and my feet, not my feet. I'm not wearing Nike like dress shoes. I'm wearing whatever this is.
This is true. but it is true. The people get stuck in their heads. Yeah. And that's not where action really occurs.
So what does that feel like? I mean, for you, everybody gets stuck in their head and it's different. Yeah. Because everybody's different.
There usually is like a 5-second period between when I get inspired to do something and then when I give all myself the reason not to do it.
Right. So what does it look like when you get stuck in your head?
When I get stuck in my head is when I go past it 5 seconds and then go into all the stories of why it's not possible.
And then what happens? Nothing happens, huh?
Nothing happens.
Oh, okay. So what have you been doing to buck that 5 seconds?
To buck that 5 seconds is I'll put any kind of action to it, even if it's having a conversation about it. Okay. So if there's nothing that I could potentially do in the moment in terms of a big action, I'll go talk to somebody about it. Because if I get that energy going from that, like, oh, I have an idea. Right. Great. And I do nothing. I don't say anything. I don't nothing. Every person has a million ideas that go through their heads. Sure. Every day. Yeah. And we're like, oh, that'd be a good idea. I wonder if they had this. Man, I could really do that. And they stay in your head.
I go down to the Google rabbit hole to see if it's out
there. The Google rabbit hole, yes. And hours go by and still nothing gets done. But we learned a lot.
And then so at that point, now if you start writing stuff down. Yeah. No, so.
But part of it is really expressing it.
Right.
Okay. Is expressing it. So an inspired event needs an inspired action.
Okay. An inspired event needs an inspired action.
Yes. So an inspiration that occurs in the moment needs an action to put it out there and let the universe know that I'm serious.
Okay. So let me throw an example at you. Okay. So let's say I'm one of your clients and I am thinking about putting together a business that expedites the transport of palm trees, because we're in California and they put palm trees everywhere. I was like, oh, but you know what? There is this new type of vehicle that's fuel efficient, is cost efficient. I could use that as my unique value proposition on how we can efficiently overnight palm trees, because I don't think anybody overnights palm trees. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a cool idea. By the way, if this idea actually works, okay, I gift it to anybody out there who is willing to take action, inspired action on this. Okay, I'm telling you right now, because actually that's a good idea. It's, you know, palm trees overnight.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Because in a pinch, if you need a palm tree, okay, so someone like me who's like, okay, cool, I have a cool idea. What would be an inspired action, you know, that I could take? Because if I'm like, now I'm Googling and I'm seeing all, whether or not it's out there.
So that really is an action though.
Googling.
Googling's an action. Because if I have this wonderful idea.
But if I get stuck in the rabbit hole of Google.
If I get stuck in the rabbit hole of Googling.
So is there a time limit of how much I should be Googling before I take the next inspired step?
I'm so glad you asked, because there is.
That's awesome. Okay, so what is the time limit then?
I would say about 20 to 30 minutes. And I know that doesn't sound, I was going to say for some people that doesn't sound like a lot.
Right.
So for the listeners out there who are challenged with ADHD, it sounds like nothing happens in 20 to 30 minutes.
I got nothing done, and now I'm on YouTube. I'm no longer on Google. I'm on Facebook now. What's happening?
Just wrote a letter to the president.
Yeah. Now I'm on Reddit. What's happening?
Yeah. Exactly. So for a lot of people that are very time organized, 20 minutes is the world.
Right.
So setting a timer should be like a wonderful thing.
Timer. I have it sitting there right in front of my desk.
Timers, yes. And to also be in relationship with what it is that you're doing around it. And at the end of any sort of investigation, there should always be an action step that happens after that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So there's not just, I'm going to go on Google and look it up.
Right.
I'm going to go on Google with what I found, then what? The question of then what, and then what is always the most important thing to fuel,
kind of from that movie.
Kind
of from like from that movie, Dude, Where's My Car?
Yes.
And then yeah, she's consummate entrepreneur. Yeah. Like, and then what? It's like, no, and then. Yes. Oh, we just dated ourselves. For those of you who don't know where that reference came from, it's from Dude, Where's My Car with Ashton Kutcher and somebody else. I forgot it was. But there was this whole scene where they were doing a drive-through for a Chinese restaurant drive-through. I have yet to see it actually true. So she was coming on, and all this lady was this Chinese lady in the background. She goes, he puts his order in, he would order all these different things. And after every order, she goes, and then. And after he was done ordering, she kept saying, and then. And he goes, no, and then, no more, I'm done. Yeah. You know, but she's, as a true entrepreneur, you're always asking, and then what?
And then what?
And then what? And what would be the next step? So maybe that's something that people should adopt.
Yeah.
Right. As a way to take that inspired action.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh my God, there's so many layers already. And we're almost done.
Oh my God.
See, fast. Speaking of which, you know, we just went into the Money Lab rabbit hole.
Yes.
Led by Way with his, you know,
inspired conversation
and squirrely tactics. So, okay, great. So it is, we have about 10 minutes left. Believe it or not, it just flew. And I have a sneaking suspicion that because you probably have so many more opportunities in terms of sharing your gifts, you know, as you blossom this new venture as an emotional mastery coach. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Did I say that?
I like mastery. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Emotional mastery coach. Okay. And if people hearing this and they're inspired by you and want to take inspired action to connect with you, should we talk about just that piece, or should we talk about your tutoring thing? Tutoring thing's fine. You've got that handled, right? Yeah, that's like a well-oiled machine at this point, right? So let's talk about your current business, your newest business, the emotional mastery coaching piece, okay, and what that's all about. And you know, this is kind of like your elevator pitch, so that people can really kind of know what is the benefit of being able to reach out to you, connect with you, and talk to you. I mean, what challenges are they solving in their lives by talking to you?
So one of the biggest things that people are solving with me is their past baggage.
Past baggage.
So a lot of times that people are running on that autopilot. This is for busy entrepreneurs that are running at the speed of light.
Yes. While carrying like 100-pound weights with them. That's kind of slow right now. What's happening?
Right. But we don't stop. And part of what I do is I get clients to stop for a second, stop the energy, stop the thoughts, stop the process, and really check out the machine.
Right. And what does that immediately help them solve in terms of their challenges in their life?
So a lot of times the I don't know question comes from doing too much.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. But have you stopped? So a lot of the stopping of the energy allows you to actually listen.
Oh.
And then to listen to, I'm afraid. Why? I don't know. You do know. I'm sad. I don't know. You do know.
So what you do is you basically help people navigate and clarify the I don't know.
Yes. So
answer the I don't know.
Exactly. So a lot of people that have been chronically depressed for years. A lot of people that struggle with irrational anger. A lot of people that can't move on from their relationships because they're giving all the power away.
And what are some of the cool results that you've been able to help people achieve?
Breaking codependency.
Codependency?
Yes.
What do you mean like codependency?
So a lot of people that I work with, because this was my story,
right,
was people in codependent relationships with either narcissistic abuse or toxic relationships with family.
Oh. And this is because you navigated that path. You've emerged from that path victoriously. Right. Yes. And you want to, through your own experience, want to be able to pay it forward and actually help others do the same.
Yes.
Because, that's the nugget, right?
Sadness is a human emotion. Sadness is a normal experience.
Yeah.
Continuing to be sad to a point where depression becomes a lifestyle and my identity does not have to be the story. That is not a normal human experience.
Right.
We didn't come here to live in sadness.
Yeah. Or stay. Yeah, we experience it.
We do.
Yeah.
And in a healthy way, being able to process that.
Right.
A lot of the men that I work with that struggle with that is the permission to be vulnerable.
To be sad.
Permission to be sad.
Yeah. Allow yourself to cry on Die Hard. I tell you, that's my fix.
Yes.
Watch Die Hard. Let yourself cry.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it go.
Cry a Die Hard.
Yeah, who's that song? Who's saying that song? It's all right to cry. Something like that. It was like way back when. Anyway. All right. So what I want to do is let people know right now how, if they want to connect with you, Jamie, to have a deeper conversation about how you can help them, or maybe help them become more aware about what they're I don't knowing about. Okay. And what they're struggling with, and ideally what they're in a relationship, not in a relationship, looking for a relationship. I mean, what's the biggest ideal circumstance for you that you can provide the biggest help for people?
For somebody that comes from a story of, I don't know how to do a relationship.
Oh.
I don't know how to have a successful business and a successful relationship.
Oh, because
I don't have time for that.
Relationship.
I don't have time for that relationship. You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's possible, because a lot of people don't understand the possibility of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that has been actually I haven't paid a lot of attention to that aspect of my life. Although I've had some amazing and brilliant relationship with some amazing people, but that's a whole other story itself. We could talk about that another time. It's not about me. It's about you right now. So if people wanted to connect with you to talk about that piece, what does that look like in terms of when they connect with you before you give out your contact information? They would call you, reach out to you, schedule a 30-minute or a 1 hour?
We'd have a 20-minute phone call.
20-minute phone call. Okay.
Because I can establish pretty quickly what it is that you're looking for.
Okay.
And I can see if we're a great fit and how I can support you with that.
Got it. And if you guys, and if they're a good fit, then we can talk about next steps.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of different action steps to take. There's a lot of different ways to go about getting that result. And
are there any other ways? Is it the one-on-one coaching piece, or do you have any products or programs?
I'm actually building a program right now.
Okay. But right now, if someone wants to connect with you, it's one-on-one work.
It's one-on-one.
Okay. Very cool. Cool. Yeah. So how do people reach out to you and connect with you?
The easiest thing is to go to my website, www. Right? Not HTTP. I love that. I used to speak that way too.
JamieStarCrawford.com. JamieStarCrawford.com. I'm putting that in the comments, everybody, for those of you who are, so inclined. I'm going to put it here in the YouTube thing too, is www.JamieStarCrawford. What? Because I've had your phone, your thing on my, your number on my phone for like years. And I looked it up recently. It says Jamie Lee Crawford.
How funny.
So I was like, Jamie Lee Crawford. Jamie Lee Curtis? I mean,
probably Jamie Lee Curtis. It goes together.
We dined in the same room.
We did.
No, Jamie Lee Curtis and we dined in the same room. I looked over and
it's amazing.
And she was looking and she was judging the conversation I was having with this other guy. And I should have paid attention because he ended up being this big shyster. But she was listening and she was like looking at him, laughing and just shaking her head. And I was like, oh, I should have paid attention to that because it would have saved me like a lot of grief and heartache and disappointment. And anyway. All right. So for those of you who want to connect with Jamie here, this amazing, amazing individual who has traversed adversity through the valley of doubt and come out like, in a purposeful, prosperous path of success in her life in so many different levels. And I have a sneaking suspicion there's more to come with this individual. So I wouldn't be surprised if we find Jamie back on our show again in the future. We're going to do a lot of things. There's a lot of cool things that are coming down the pipe. And we are actually also launching our online campus pretty soon. So we're always looking for teachers. So something we can talk about after the show.
Really exciting.
But yeah, so I just dropped a seed there for the first time in public. Okay, so go to www. You can do http:// if you want. JamieStar Crawford. That's JAMIE. Well, I put it in the comments, so I don't have to spell it out. But so www.JamieStarCrawford.com. Reach out to her. Whether or not you think it's a good fit, reach out if you have any challenges around your emotional baggage, your past baggage, relational stuff. If you have a question in your life right now, that's the question of I don't know, and it's you realize it's keeping you stuck. Okay. Whether or not you move forward as a client, I think Jamie's kind of like in a place of service that she's not attached to whether or not you're going to move forward. Just connect with her, talk to her, open up a conversation. Sometimes that 20 minutes is all you need to be able to move forward again, right? And you're not attached to whether or not they work with you, as long as you be able to make, because you're here to serve.
Yes.
I love it. All right, cool. So very, very cool, everybody. So that is our show today. Again, reach out to Jamie here whenever you can to reach out and have a conversation with her. So glad you made it. So happy to have that. Yeah. and now that we're emerging out of this vortex of, oh my God, where did the time go? Again, if you found this episode to be valuable, okay, and know someone else that could benefit from it and from what we talked about today, and I'm pretty sure you probably could think of somebody, at least one person, share it. That's the best way to pay it forward when you have been given such great value that you got from Jamie today. And if you are a fan of our show and what we do here at the Six Figure Academy, the Money Lab, another way to pay it forward is to rate us and review us on iTunes. Okay, Spreaker, or like the episode, this particular episode on Google Live, and that'll help too. Honestly, that's one of the best ways for us to reach more people, help more people. And if you felt a shift and you want to be part of something bigger and greater, share it, move it forward, and give us a review and stuff like that. All that fun stuff. Okay. Any last things? What any last thing that you like to add, Jamie, before we sign off here, which is something that you can give someone who is neck deep in adversity right now and wanting to step into a more prosperous state of being? What's one thing? I mean, there's a lot that you could probably choose from, but what's one thing that you would say would be one simple baby step that they could take?
Believing that there's the other side. Believing. Really believing that this isn't it.
Right.
That the adversity is a step, that it's not the end. That believing that there really is another side of the mountain.
Right.
And that you got to trust yourself.
Right.
Like, it really is a huge game of I trust myself. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how to do it.
Right.
But I do trust that I will figure it out.
So being willing to take a moment, pause. And just kind of take a look at what the belief systems are running through your head, what language is in your head, and just really kind of trusting yourself again.
It's a huge trust game.
Yeah, it is. Oh my goodness. Wow. So cool. So valuable. So many cool things. That's a wrap.
Thank you so much, Wayne.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for making it.
You're a doll.
So take this week to apply the knowledge from today. Have an amazing week, and we'll catch you next week on the Money Lab live podcast from the Six Figure Academy. This is Way signing off. Next week, we're going to have Blue Echo Design come in. How exciting. All right, everybody on Google Hangouts, thank you for joining us. We are wrapping. This is done. I forget to do that every single week because I forget and I leave this on and it's just looking at us. but anyway,
like you watch us dance.
I know exactly. Yeah. So we are actually doing something. That's whole air. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Say bye.